Welcome back. Today, I want to ask you a question, and I really don't want you to answer this too quickly. I kind of want you to sit with it. I want you to feel it. And I honestly want to disrupt something inside of you. And here it is. What if there's nothing wrong with you? No, really, what if there's nothing wrong with you? What if your entire life you've been trying to solve the problem that actually never existed? What if you've been trying to repair something that was never broken? Because I know what some of you just did, because I do it as well. Your brain immediately started arguing. Nope, you don't understand. I'm not good enough. I'm broken. I'm anxious. I overthink. I'm exhausted. I'm overwhelmed. I feel too much. I'm insecure. I sabotage myself. I procrastinate. I'm just not good enough. And honestly, I hear you. And I hear every one of those voices. But today, I want to challenge something. What if those aren't flaws? What if they're adaptations? Maybe you're not broken. Maybe you're adapted. Because every behavior, no matter how frustrating, exists for a reason. Everything. The overthinking, the perfectionism, the people pleasing, the anxiety, the avoidance, the need to control, the constant busyness, and the inability to rest. None of this happened by accident. You learned it, you built it, you practiced it, and at some point it was very needed because it protected you. This is really important, and I really need you to hear this. Your mind is not trying to destroy you. Your mind is trying to protect you. Although it may be using outdated methods, or it may be overprotective. But its intentional was always survival. And that's a completely different conversation. Because if you're not broken, that you no longer need to go to war. You need to understand. Now, there's an inherent exhaustion in spending your life trying to fix yourself. And can we be honest? Like, honestly, how exhausting is it to constantly feel like a project? How exhausting is it to wake up every day believing I need to improve? I need to fix this. I need to fix that. Everything will be perfect when I fix this. I need to become better. I need to become more disciplined. I need to become more productive. I need to be more confident. I need to be more lovable, more worthy, more enough. And you know what happens after 20 or 30 or 40 years of that? You just become exhausted. Because you're living an impossible assignment. And that assignment became earn your worth. But here's the problem. Worth was never something to earn. Worth was always something just to remember. Truth is, you cannot improve your way into being or into believing you're worthy. Because some people spend their entire life changing self-improvement. without ever arriving at self-acceptance. And that's heartbreaking because the finish line keeps moving. You lose 10 pounds. You need to lose 20. You hit a goal. That's not enough. You build confidence. Now you compare yourself again. And suddenly your entire life becomes one endless chase, like a dog chasing its tail. You'll never catch it. Who taught you that you were a problem to solve? Who taught you that? Who taught you that you had to become acceptable? Because children don't arrive believing that. Now, I've talked about it before. I went through a self-help era in my 20s and 30s, I believe. My life was really dysfunctional. And I was in this incredibly intense battle in my head. But I didn't realize I was fighting on the wrong side. And I didn't have a lot of people in my life. And I had no real self-worth. I felt like I was, like my life came down to displacing a certain amount of air. And then one day I'd die and I'd rot. And then I'd displace less air. And that would have been my life. So I started looking into self-help. And I started with books and exercise. And I did courses. And I kept on going after certain issues in my life. And I go after that all out. And then I'd sort them all out. And then the next thing you know, I'd see this whole other layer of stuff. So I'd work on that. And I'd fight my way through it. And I'd come out the other side and I'm like, yeah. And then I'd look again. And there's another layer. And for a long time, I just went layer after layer after layer. Until I started thinking about these quotes I've heard, like, what you focus on expands. And what you look for, you'll find. And in this process, I'd become somebody who was doing good. I wasn't perfect. I didn't have everything I dreamed of. But I was no longer in an internal war. I was, in fact, okay. And I was productive. My thought process was better. And I realized that as human beings, we're onions. We're just layer after layer after layer. And the layers are growing from the inside. And honestly, you could spend your whole life looking for problems to solve, and you'll find them. And I realized that I was doing pretty well, good. I was okay as I was. And I realized it was time to stop the self-help era and start living because I was okay. But at the same time, I have this deep trust that if something shows up that I need to deal with, that it'll be very obvious. And then I can look at it then and then go back to just being okay. And it's really cool because, like, I'll be going through life and something will really, really, really bother me. And then in the past, that was devastating, especially when I was in my self-help era and I was doing great. And then I'd see another layer and it would knock me on my butt. But now I go, oh, cool. What was that? See, when somebody says something or does something that I have a reaction over here, I own my reaction. Like when I'm reacting to what somebody else is saying, this is about me. It's not about them. I forget about them and I look at myself. Wow, what was that? Where did that come from? And I work my way through all the times I can remember feeling that way until I get the first one. And I'll deal with it from there. But I'm no longer a problem to be solved. I'm no longer broken. I'm actually doing okay. And that was probably one of the greatest realizations of my life. The truth is your struggles may have been your superpowers. And let's talk about anxiety. Anxiety is actually saying, pay attention, stay alert, prepare for danger. And why? Because at some point, your brain learned that being prepared was safe. Let's talk about perfectionism. Perfectionism says don't make mistakes. Mistakes are dangerous. Mistakes lead to criticism. Mistakes lead to rejection. Let's talk about people pleasing. People pleasing says keep everyone happy because conflict feels unsafe. Can you see it? Those aren't flaws. They're not. They're protective systems. They're survival software. The problem isn't that they exist. The problem is the problem is that these perfection or protection mechanisms, they're still running. Our survival strategies become the obstacles when the danger is gone. So imagine you're carrying an umbrella every single day because it rained 20 years ago. Yeah, 20 years ago. Imagine wearing a life jacket while sitting on a couch because once you fell overboard. Imagine wearing a helmet reading a book. This all sounds absurd in this context, but emotionally, that's what many of us are doing. We're still protecting ourselves from storms that ended years ago. So what do we do? Maybe it's time to stop declaring war on yourself. Remember how I said I felt like I was in a war? And that I was battling on the wrong side. I was agreeing with the negative inner dialogue, the critic. I was building that up. And some of you have been fighting yourself for decades. I was. And I need to say this. The war isn't working. It's not working. It never was. Shame cannot create healing. Hatred does not create healing. Punishment does not create healing. Maybe it's time to stop declaring war on the parts of you that once protected you. Imagine speaking to yourself directly. Instead of, why am I like this? You say, what happened that taught me this? Instead of saying, what is wrong with me? You say, what was this protecting me from? Instead of, I hate this part of myself, you say, thank you for keeping me safe. Can you feel the shift? It's just the energy shift in that. One creates shame. Another one creates understanding. And the truth is, awareness and understanding change everything. The compassion framework. I want to give you a tool. Whenever you catch yourself criticizing yourself, try these 4 steps. So, internal criticism. First step is pause. Stop. 2, name the behavior. What is it? I'm overthinking. 3, ask yourself, what purpose did this once serve? 4, thank it. Then update it. For an example, thank you for protecting me, but we're safe now. You could say it again. Thank you for protecting me, but we're safe now. The truth is, compassion often creates the transformation force never could. Because force creates resistance, compassion creates safety, and safety is what creates the change. So take a breath and ask yourself 3 questions. What if my struggles once served an important purpose? What if I actually don't need fixing? And what if understanding this creates the change I've been chasing? Really sit there, because some of you are hearing this for the very first time in your entire life. This is so foreign, it's unbelievable. You don't have to earn your humanity. You don't have to earn your worth. And you don't have to become perfect. You don't have to fight yourself anymore. The war could end today, right now. And here's what I want you to remember. You're not broken. You're adapted. You're not broken. You're adapted. So stop declaring war on the parts of you that once protected you. Because compassion creates a transformation force never could. And healing is not becoming something new. Healing is becoming safe enough to become yourself. The version of you underneath all the armor, underneath all the defenses, underneath all the survival strategies, that person is still there. And they've always been there, waiting patiently for you to stop fighting them. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest breakthrough of your life. Maybe it won't come from becoming more. Maybe it will finally come from realizing you were never broken. You were just surviving. And now you get to start living. Living a full life. Albert Einstein said resistance causes persistence. So when you resist it, you're whole and complete just as you are. That feeling of being not good enough will persist. When you stay in the same place, nothing ever changes. And old strategies will not create new results. But when we're living them unconsciously, to a point that we don't even know, it's impossible to free ourselves from them because they were effective. They helped you at the time. You've progressed past this. So it's time to wake up, to bring light on the old strategy, the way you used to do it. Bring it into the light and look at it. Understand what it was there for, why it was created. Be grateful for all the times it protected you. And then move forward. A lot of this comes from the inner critic, the ego, the sense of identity, right? Which probably came out of our sympathetic nervous system as our cognition got more and more The sympathetic nervous system had to create a way to deal with perceived threat. And that was the inner critic. And it built itself up every time you did something, you kind of stuck out of the box a little bit and you got embarrassed or ashamed. And it said, never going to let that happen again. And then it created strategies to keep you small. Not as a punishment, but to keep you safe. But the truth is, if you don't want to be small in this life, you got to tell it, thank you for sharing. Thank you for protecting me. But it's time for me to grow. Keep being grateful for all those ways you've been protected. Keep understanding that you're not broken. You just adapted. And keep building your own inner advocate.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimen Petersen, formerly Conversations with Kimen. If you found value in today's episode, please follow, like, and share the podcast with someone who you think may benefit from it. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and connect on Instagram at your_inner_advocate. Until next time, keep listening to and developing your inner advocate.